everybody. This is Dion here, the host of the Multifamily Investor Situation Room podcast. Thank you for joining me today in this tutorial. If you have yet to subscribe to us, to our podcast, make sure you head over to iTunes and you look up Multifamily Investor Situation Room and you hit the subscribe button. Also, you should go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe on YouTube. Next, you can also, I highly suggest that you join our Facebook deal group, which is growing right now. We have over 360 members, and that's been in about the last month. So our Facebook deal group is growing quite quickly, and we're starting to get a lot more interaction. And recently, I've been seeing a lot more people post some information about looking to partner with people, on some deals, or just people looking for help on deals. And so it's a great way to learn, potentially find some partners to co-GP on deals, and just overall just learn a lot more about real estate and real estate investing. So today it's a little bit of something different that I am bringing to you. For those of you that are a little bit curious about more so the financial modeling side of Excel. Now, I'm not going to go through a complete financial model. Moreover, we're just going to only hone in on just one aspect of the financial model, which is the amortization of a mortgage. So we're going to look at that here today. Now, before we go into that, just a little bit about me for those of you that don't know. I'm the co-founder of Delta Bridge Capital LLC, which is a multifamily real estate investment company. I co-founded that with a partner of mine. His name's William. He's from Hong Kong. He's got 19 years in financial services, working with some large investment banks in Hong Kong, working on multi-billion-dollar cross-border acquisitions in Asia. So we're working together on Delta Bridge Capital right now. I'm also the host of the Multifamily Investor Situation Room podcast. I am the co-founder of Rocky Mountain Education Institute in Beijing, and I'm also a former analyst for a $30 million Boston-based private equity fund. And I was the senior analyst on a deal team for the acquisition of a $1.5 billion hotel in New York. And I am also a former residential commercial real estate agent, and I've personally closed over $10 million in deals. Now, let's go ahead and move on and look at some of our objectives for today. So for those of you that are, really into the financial models, you guys know are advanced modelers. I mean, this may not be for you. This is more of like an introductory type overview for just some people that are curious about more so on the mortgage side, calculating the payments, the interest, etc. This is very, very basic. So for those of you that are, curious as to how this aspect of things work, I'm going to break that down for you in a very basic way here and show you how to put that together in Excel today. So our objectives, really briefly, three key things. Number one, just to help you understand what the time value of money is, also the bifurcation of interest and principal payments. Number two, we're going to set up a simple amortization table in Excel using some basic functions. And then last, I'm going to show you how to build out a more dynamic loan payment table, although it won't be too complex. But I'll show you where you can get a more complex version of that later. I'll tell you where you can get that later. All right, so moving on. Whoops. That's what happened. All right, moving on. Okay, so now time value of money. What exactly is that? Basically, it's this. A dollar received today is worth more than a dollar received tomorrow due to the potential earnings. Just think about it. If someone comes to you and says, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $1,000,000 today, or I'll give you $1,000,000 20 years from now, which one would be more appealing to you? Which would you prefer? Most people would probably say, well, yeah, hey, look, just give me the $1,000,000 today. And obviously, there is a reason for that. Granted, for those of you that are more sophisticated out there, we will probably say, hey, well, I want a little bit more information. Okay. But for most of us and most everyone, obviously, you want the money today because of what it is that you can do with that money. You may have investments or something that you can put it into and earn interest off of that. So let's just take a look at this example here. The first example, if you look here, let's say that we have a principal amount of $1,000 and you can earn 6% interest. We have a term of 1 year. So how much would that $1,000 be worth today if we were to receive it a year from now? Okay, so the present value of that would be $943. Okay, so $1,000 that we would receive in 1 year from now at 6% interest would be worth $943. Another way of putting it, if we take $943.40 and we put it in an account earning 6% interest for 1 year, we will have $1,000. Okay, let's look at another example. $1,000 at 6% interest over a 15-year period. So at the end of 15 years, we're going to get $1,000. How much is that worth to us today? Well, because we have a much longer term, 15 years versus 1 year, it's worth significantly less. So it's only worth $417.27. Okay, so the $1,000 that we receive in 1 year is going to be more valuable than the $1,000 that we're going to receive in 15 years. All right. Now let's look at this example here. We're going to look at our principal payment function here in Excel, as well as look at principal and interest bifurcation here. So let's say that we still have this $1,000 at 6% interest, but we're going to receive monthly payments of $86.07 over a 12-month period. Okay. So these are our periods. So we have months 1, 2, 3, all the way through months 12 here. And if we were to take the present value of each one of these payments, we could see here that payments received during earlier months are worth significantly more than payments received during latter months. So this $86.07 here can be broken down as follows. In the first month, the present value of this $86.07 received at the end of the first month is worth $85.64 to us. Okay. Then in the second month, we are going to receive another $86.07. It's worth a little bit less, $85.21. Now, going all the way out to month 12, this $86.07 is going to be worth $81.07 to us in the 12th month. Okay. So again, this is the time value of money here. This is taking into account the time that we are going to receive this $86.07. Now, how did we come up with this $86.07? Well, this payment number, we came up with this payment number by using this function here, the payment function. Actually, it's the PMT function here that I used in Excel. Okay, so I used the payment function in Excel, PMT. So here you're going to enter the rate, the interest rate, the number of periods, which is 12, the present value of the loan amount, which is $1,000, and then the future value of the loan amount, which should be 0, because assuming that the balance in the end that's going to be owed to you is going to be 0 to be completely paid off. And then the type here. Now this type function, it'll default to 0. And what that means, there are two options that you can choose from, 0 and 1. And what that means is 0 basically means that you're going to receive the payment at the end of the period. 1 means that you receive the payment at the beginning of the period. Now that's very important because if you receive the payment at the beginning of the period, then if you receive the payment, then you're not earning interest on that, okay? If you receive it at the end of the period, then you're earning interest on that, okay? So, but in this case, the payment is going to be received at the end of the period, so we're earning interest on that. So if you could see here, you could see that I took the interest rate here, and I divide the 6% because the 6% is an annual interest rate. I divided it by 12 months because we're getting the payment on a monthly basis. So we need to make it into a monthly rate. So I divided it by the 12 or the term here, which is cell B32. And so that gives us the rate. And then we have the number of periods, which is 12, and the present value of the loan. You have to put a negative sign in front of this. If you don't, what you'll get for the payment is a negative payment number, which is in essence saying that this is money that is going out, okay? Which it is money that's going out. It's all in reality, it's all a matter of perspective. It is money going out here, but for the purpose of the model, you don't want it to show up as a negative number. Even though we do know that it's money going out, we want it to show up as a positive number here. So we put a negative sign there. I could just show you that here really quickly. So this is what would happen if you didn't do it. It'll show up as a negative number rather than a positive number. So let's just flip that sign again. And then for the loan type, we're just going to, or the future value, we select 0, although if we didn't select anything, it would just default to 0 anyway, so we don't have to technically type anything there. And then for the type, we don't have to type anything there. It'll just default to 0, okay? And so that's how we get the payment. Now, let's look at the principal and interest bifurcation. So if we look here, we could see that by calculating the present value of these payments, we can actually bifurcate the principal amount and the interest amount. So here, assuming a constant payment or a fixed payment amount of $86.07, basically what this function is doing is this function is saying, okay, what monthly payment amount at 6% over a 12-month period for a principal loan amount of $1,000 will basically have us pay off this $1,000. Okay, so that's basically what this function is solving for. And here we are able, to bifurcate that. So by solving for the present value of these payment amounts, so here we're basically just taking the present value of $86.07, as I explained before, over the first month, then the present value over the second month, third month, et cetera, all the way down to the 12th month. Now, if you notice what happens when we sum these up, so when we sum these up here, they are equivalent to $1,000 here, which is the original principal amount that we borrowed. All right. Now, because we are paying the $86.07. That's what we're paying every single month. So we subtract the $86.07 by this present value amount, and what you get is the amount of interest that was paid. So again, if we were to take and sum these up here, you can see, whoops, equals sum, you can see that it should equal $86.07 across the board. So you can see that this does equal $86.07 if we were to add both the present value amount and the interest amount. And when we add these together here, we get the total interest for this loan. So when summing these here, these two numbers, we get $1,032.80, which should equal our payments, the total amount of the payments multiplied by the period on which they do. So you can see here that when we multiply out our $86.07 monthly payment times the 12 months, we get $1,032.80. And then if we bifurcate these, the principal and interest, and then using the present value formula, and then we add them together, they come out to be the same. All right. So let's move on and take a look at a fixed payment schedule here. So let's just put together a really simple fixed payment schedule. So this here is our finished product. Again, still using the same numbers that we have, but I want to show you and just kind of walk you through how I put this together here. So we could do, so if you're at home and you want to do this with me, you know, feel free to go ahead and do this with me. I'm starting in cell B7, so you can open up an Excel document as well and walk through this with me. So here I'm just typing the principal amount, which is going to be $1,000 here, and then I'm going to have my payment, okay, interest, my term, and then type, and I'll show you what we're going to do with type later, okay? So here, the payment amount, 6% is going to be the interest, whoops, and then the term is 12 months. Now, for the payment amount, we could still use the same formula that we used earlier, although you don't have to do this again, but for additional practice, you can if you'd like. It's not necessary to complete this table. And then here, so $86.07. Now we're going to have our, in cell B13, we're going to type in our period, our beginning balance, our principal, our interest, and then our end balance, all right? Now I like to format these things as I go along. Okay, all righty, let's save that here. And then here, we could just do this, and then we could just drag this down to 12, okay? So this period just basically means 1 month, or month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, okay, so on and so forth. Now for the beginning balance, that's just going to be our original principal amount. So in Excel, it's very easy. You know, you could hit the equal sign, and then we could just scroll up here to the principal amount, C7, and hit enter. And then for the principal amount, now for the principal amount, we can use, there are a couple of things that we could do, but for simplicity's sake, let's just use our formula. So we're going to use the principal payment formula, which is this formula here, the PPMT. So we're going to type in equals PPMT parentheses. Now for the rate, let's go up here, divided by 12. That's going to be the rate. Now one thing I want to point out, a couple of things. Number one, notice I just entered 12. Again, and you'll find out here later, this type of model, it's very, very simple. It's super simple. It's not dynamic at all. I wouldn't be able to build this out to like 180 month or 360 month or like for like a 30-year loan or anything if I build it out this way. But let's just stick with our cell references here. And then if we click on this C9 here and we hit the F4 key, that'll give us these dollar signs and that'll lock the cell. And that's important here when we copy this down. Okay, comma. Now the period. So what period are we in? We're in the first period. So this is the first month. We don't want to lock this cell. The number of periods is 12. Let's lock this cell. The present value, negative 1,000, and we need to lock this cell, and that's it. Okay, so that's our principal amount. Now for the interest, we're going to use our interest payment function, which is this function here, equals IPMT, and our rate, let's lock this cell, F4, divided by our term here, again, F4, comma. The period here, do not lock this, B14. The number of periods, which is going to be our term here. And then we are going to take our present value, $1,000 here, and then enter. All right, $5. Now our ending balance is simply going to be our beginning balance minus the principal. So equals the beginning balance minus the principal. And that's how we get our ending balance. Now, one last thing we need to do, and then we can copy and we can just drag down. So let's just, for the beginning balance for the second month is simply going to equal to the ending balance of the first month. So equals the end balance here. Let's go over, copy this down. All right. And let's see, there is, okay. So as you can see here, there was a little bit of a mistake here. Let's lock that C7, which I forgot to lock it. That's what happens if you don't lock it. So as you can see here, when I copied it down, and I saw this number here, we went from interest of $5 to 40 cents. That number didn't look right. And then I just did a quick check by clicking F2, and I looked at which numbers this formula is referencing, and I saw that it's referencing the payment, which I know that is incorrect here. And I noticed that I forgot to lock this cell. So very important that in your formulas that the cells that you're locking, that you lock them. Otherwise, you get little mistakes like that. So how do we lock this? Let's go back to this cell, E14. I'm going to click this C7 here, type F4 or click F4 on my keyboard. Whoops, excuse me. And then that's going to give me these dollar signs. Now the cell is locked. And then let's copy that down, and it changes it, and it's correct. Now what we can do is copy this all the way down. So I'm going to select cells C15 to F15, and then I'm going to hit Shift and the down arrow all the way down here to period 12, and Control D, which is going to copy everything down, and we should have an ending balance of 0, and which we do, and everything seems to match up with what we have over here, and this is our amortization table. So as you can see here, In the beginning, of course, I'm sure most of you know, in the beginning of your amortizing loan, you're going to pay more interest in the beginning, and then your principal amount is going to increase over time as your interest decreases over time. Okay. All right. So, but as you can see here, and I'm sure as many of you know, you don't always have an amortizing loan. Sometimes you have interest-only loans, or sometimes you may have other types of loans with maybe a balloon payment, or you have a custom amortization type loan. So let's just take a look at another slightly more dynamic simple model. Again, these are very simple models that we're constructing here. So again, I'm going to begin in cell B8, and I'm going to type out principal, interest, whoops, and I'm getting this here. Okay, change that, interest, my term, and then loan type. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the loan type here in a second. Okay, so we're still going to stick with $1,000. We're still going to stick with 6% interest, term 12 months. Now for this loan type, what we're going to do is we're going to create a little drop-down menu. So if you select cell C11, and then if we go to data, and then data validation here, and then we select list, and then source, and if you type in that source box 1, 2, 3 is what we're going to do. Okay. Now what this is going to do is create a drop-down menu. And this drop-down menu is going to have 1, 2, and 3. And this 1, 2, and 3 is basically going to be our loan type. So here, I'm just going to say like 1 is going to be our fixed payment loan. We're going to have 2 is going to be our interest-only loan. And then 3 is going to be our custom amortization loan. Whoops. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and continue. So in cell B13, I am going to type out period, beginning balance, principal, interest, ending balance, and then here we're going to add another column, amortization percentage. All right. Over, and then let's go ahead. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Copy these down to 12. Alrighty. Okay. So again, with this, our beginning balance is going to be $1,000. And then our principal payment here, we still have our function that we had before, ppmt. We're going to use that. Whoops, going to type it equals ppmt. Our rate is this, 6% divided by the term. Make sure we lock that. Our period here, don't lock that. The number of periods here. And then our principal amount, lock that, and we're good to go. The interest, IPMT, we're going to have our rate here, lock this. Okay, our period, and then we are going to add in the number of payments, lock that as well. And the principal amount, make sure we lock that cell. Okay. And then our ending balance is going to be our beginning balance minus the principal. Okay. And then we're going to have our beginning balance in the following period is the ending balance of our previous period. Copy this down one row, make sure it makes sense. It does. And then we're going to copy this all the way down. Okay, and everything's good. we'll look at this amortization, the custom amortization here in a minute. All right, so let's just look at this. We have here this loan type. Now, how can we make this table a little bit more dynamic if we have, let's say, an interest-only loan, or if we have a custom amortization loan? Because right now it's not dynamic. As you can see here, as I select these, let's say if we have an interest-only loan, I'm going to have to go through and change all of these. Well, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just change the loan type and then have everything flow through the model. That would be much better. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this third formula C here, the choose function. So what this choose function is going to do is it's going to look up one of these numbers 1, 2, or 3. So it says an index number 1, 2, or 3. And then we're going to give it a set of rules. So take, for example, it's going to say number 1. So number 1 is going to be our fixed payment loan. So if this says 1, then our first value, we're going to tell this function to say, to give us back this number, the principal amount, using this payment function. If it is not this, if it's number 2, then it's going to be interest only, which means that there should be 0 or no principal payment. If it's number 3, then it's going to be a completely different formula, and I'll show you what that formula is here in a second. Now, since we're on this, let's just go ahead and and do this here for the custom amortization, since we're going to build out this formula here in a second. So here, I'm going to format these. Alrighty, we don't need that. Okay. And then let's just say we have 0, and then 5, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, and then 15. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So these, we can change these to blue because these we can change at any time. All right. So let's go ahead and build out this formula now. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to type in choose. Now, we're going to first reference this here, and we need to lock this cell, and then comma. Now, the first thing, or the first value, if it is 1, it should feed back, because it's a fixed payment, we want it to feed back this payment here. If it's not that and it's interest only, value 2, as you can see, this is highlighted, we want it to be 0 because there should be no principal repayments if it's interest only loan, right? And then the next thing is, if it's not 2 and it's 3, then what we want is we want custom amortization, which is basically going to be our amortization amount multiplied by the principal amount here. So let's lock that principal amount. And then let's close this off, and then we should be done. And then let's just copy this down. All right, and that flowed right through. Okay, now let's see if this worked. So let's go ahead and check. So if we select 1, okay, it's still the same. Now let's see what happens if we select 2, interest only. Okay, so here now we get everything flows through quite nicely. So as you can see here, the beginning balance changed. The principal did change, but there's a problem here with the interest payment function, okay? As you can see here, this is still showing us the interest payments based off of the amortization schedule, which is not what we want. We want interest only. So we have to fix that. So what are we going to do to fix that? There's still another fix. So let's just put this back on 1 and let's fix our function here. So we still need to use our choose function. So choose, and again here, let's lock this cell. So our loan type. Now, if it's going to be the first one, the fixed payment loan, this formula is correct. If it is going to be an interest-only loan, then we simply want the principal amount multiplied by the interest payment amount. So here, we could simply just go, we could simply do the interest here, which is going to be this cell. Let's lock that, divide it by the term, lock that, and then multiply by the loan amount. And then we could lock that. Okay. And then the other thing that we could do is, well, we could put the comma here. And then the other thing that we could do with the amortization, again, the amortization or the custom amortization, that's going to be based off of whatever the balance is. So again, let's take the interest amount, let's lock that, divide it by the term, lock that as well, and then multiply that by the loan balance here. Okay, close that off. And then that should do it. Let's scroll down, make sure that makes sense. Okay, did that? Okay. All right, so let's see if this works now. So let's select interest-only loan. Aha, there we go. All right, so that flowed through nicely here on the interest-only loan. Okay, and we could actually reformat these to make this look a little better. Okay. All right. Okay. So interest only here, we have the interest only loan. All right, that flowed through nicely. So we can see the interest payment is $5 a month. And let's look at the custom amortization. Excellent. Very, very good. So you can see here that there's, just like we have here with the custom amortization, we have nothing but interest here flowing through in the beginning. And then because there's no amortization, and then we have some amortization beginning in month 5, and you can see that we've got some pay down of principal here, and then it increases. The principal amount increases, the principal payment amount increases, and the interest payment amount decreases here, and then the ending balance decreases all the way to 0. So that flows through just nicely. All right. Now, the only problem with this model is, yes, it flows a lot better here, and it's a very basic, very simple model. And really, it just kind of helps you to understand the relationship here, some of the basic functions in Excel and how you calculate these things. But it's not a very dynamic model. It's not scalable. We cannot scale this model out to 180 months, or we couldn't do like an interest-only period of 24 months, or 12-month interest-only period, and then you have like your amortization starting after, beginning in the 13th month, or you couldn't do that with this model. So that's why I have this model here that I developed. And as you can see here, this model is more dynamic here. So we have our loan amount, our start date of the loan, term 30 years. We could have an interest-only period. So let's say if we have an interest-only period of 12 months, as you can see here, we have principal beginning in the first month, but if I enter 12 months, So we have no principal being paid in the beginning. And then you don't have principal repayment until the 13th month. Or we could change that to 0. We could change the structure, interest only loan. So this is a little bit more of a dynamic model. And if you want this model and you kind of want to, learn how I put this model together, make sure you go over to our website, multifamilyinvestorsituationroom.com, and you subscribe you join our mailing list, and you also subscribe to our podcast. Last, make sure you join our Facebook group, and you can get access to this model there. So thank you all for joining me here today. I hope that this was a little bit informative for those of you, especially those of you that are new and curious to how some of these models are put together. Make sure you reach out to me if you guys have any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can just shoot me a message here at info@multifamilyinvestorsituationroom.com. Thank you.